Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. After serving in office for more than a decade, Mike Duggan is in his final term as mayor of Detroit. That has led to a large mayoral contest. 9 people have formally entered to have their name appear on the August primary ballot. After that, 2 candidates will advance to the November general election. Whoever becomes Detroit's next mayor will have a number of issues to tackle. One of those issues is transit. The city's bus system needs an upgrade, while Southeast Michigan as a whole still lacks a regional transit system. So what do the candidates plan to do about transit? A nonprofit called Transportation Riders United hosted a forum last week, giving each contestant a chance to discuss how they would address transit issues if elected to office. WDET journalist Alex McLenon was at the forum. He joins us now on the Metro to talk about it. Alex, welcome back.
Thank you, Tia. Good to be back.
Good to see you. So, tell us about the forum. How was it set up?
All right, so the forum was set up. It lasted about an hour. It was 7 of the candidates appeared. They were on stage and they were asked questions. Some of them, the questions were for everyone to answer. Some of them, just for time's sake, only got like half the candidates answering them. So the candidates who were there were Santil Jenkins, former city council president. Jonathan Barlow was there. He's a businessman. Fred Durhal, 7th District City Council rep right now. James Craig, former police chief. Todd Perkins, lawyer. Donetta Simpson, retired cosmetologist. And Joel Hashim, who's an entrepreneur. The only 2 candidates who didn't show up for this were Kinloch and Sheffield. One of the organizers told me after the event that the reason Sheffield wasn't there was because she thought she could do it via Zoom, and they couldn't make that work. So she had intended to be there. Don't know why Kinloch wasn't there. It lasted about an hour. They all had a minute and a half to answer various questions, focusing on different things, and a lot of them centered around funding for DDOT and DDOT's reimagined plan, and went into different facets of that.
Mm-hmm. And Alex, for those who may not know, what is the DDOT reimagined plan in the first place?
So the DDOT reimagined plan is a study that was done. You can find it on the city's website if you're curious to kind of dive into the nitty-gritty of it. But it's basically laying out where the Detroit Department of Transportation needs to be as effective as it wants to be. It goes into things like current routes, changes that would need to be made to that, future routes that could be added. And it also talks about things like paying drivers better, which has been an issue, and things of that nature, all the kind of P's and Q's that go into creating an effective transit network in the city. And essentially it says that they would need to double the budget of DDOT by the year 2030, which is not a very long time from now. The budget is currently about $200 million for DDOT. How do you get there in 5 years? That's something that the candidates were talking about at this forum.
And what were the candidates at the forum in favor of supporting this particular plan?
Now, this might surprise you, but at this transit forum, no one said anything bad about transit. But the real question is how they want to do it. So as we just mentioned, the reimagined plan for DDOT would need DDOT to have a lot more funding. So the question is, where does that funding come from? Todd Perkins is one of the candidates for mayor. He says what really matters when it comes to funding DDOT is finding the right mechanism to do it.
So we're currently funded in multitude of different ways through the federal government. And that's going to flow coming forward through the RTA. What we are losing, we have to deal with the reality. We are losing what we have as ARPA funding that has been used for the purposes of funding our system. We have to make this intentional. We have to make this a priority. We have to secure likely those things will come from some of it from our general fund to the extent we can, but we also have to focus on public-private partnerships in order to effectuate doubling the size.
So that was Todd Perkins' answer to that question. Now, it's kind of hard to add more context when the same candidates are getting a minute and a half to do the same question back to back to back. But one interesting thing I thought that Santil Jenkins said was highlighting the need to address transportation insecurities in Detroit.
We have over a third of Detroiters who don't have access to a car. That insecurity rate is more than double the national rate. So as a city that says we want to put Detroiters to work, we want everybody who can get a job to have one, we have to have a way for them to get there. If 33% of our adults can't get to work, how can we tell them you must find a job and work? So yes, I support increasing the budget for DDOT, but also making sure that at the end of the budget year, we're not turning back a surplus, which happens in the majority of years because we don't spend all of the money we have.
So, Alex, another common topic of conversation when it comes to DDOT is wages for drivers. There have been a lot of calls to raise those. So what was said about paying drivers?
Yeah, so this was an interesting one at this forum. So one of the issues that DDOT has is retaining drivers. And the starting salary for a DDOT driver is, well, it's $19.38 per hour, and the top end wage is $26.30 per hour. And when you compare that to what a driver at Smart makes, they're dealing with more of a higher starting pay and then getting up to as high as $40,000, about $35,000. Now, the interesting thing, or $35 an hour, excuse me. I've got all my notes scribbled down on different paper.
But still, with $35 an hour is...
That's a big gap from $26 an hour. So that's one of the reasons why they have a hard time retaining drivers. Now, what was really interesting about this to me was that someone from the local transit union, Local 26, noted at the forum that it costs the city of Detroit around $40,000 to train a driver. So when you consider that hourly cost with what the city has to pay to get the driver ready to do it, only to lose them right away because they can't pay enough for it, that's talk about an inefficiency when it comes to spending. That's kind of what that is. So that was, and part of the reimagined plan does talk about raising salaries so that, that the starting pay is higher than less than $20 an hour and eventually gets higher than $26. Everyone seemed pretty interested in doing that, and DDOT has highlighted that as a need for a while as well. One of the answers Fred Durhall gave, he said that increasing wages for DDOT drivers isn't just about employee retention. He says it can also improve service quality.
We have to invest in the drivers, not only so they can have competitive and living wages. What's not talked about is that when they're paid at that competitive rate, the rider experience also increases. So when folks get on the bus, they are met with friendly drivers. When folks get on the bus, they have the ability to have a driver that is willing to assist them and then take that money back to their neighborhoods and pay their rent and pay their mortgage and provide for their family. So yes, I will continue to invest in our drivers because it's the right thing to do. And yes, we will not only support wage parity, but look to become more competitive in our region. A world-class city starts with a world-class transit system.
You're listening to The Metro on WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio. I'm Tia Graham. We're talking about a recent mayoral forum centered on transit. WDET reporter Alex McLenon was there. He's given us a ride-along summary. So, Alex, when we talk about transit, buses aren't the only way people get around town that doesn't involve driving a car. Were other ways for people to get around discussed where we're talking about just, walkability?
Yes. So in beyond just buses, there's other ways that you can have people get around without driving a car. Walkability, like you mentioned, also bike safety and bike lanes. So people were talking about integrating that into the system as well. It isn't just getting somewhere on a bus, it's getting somewhere on the bus and then maybe being able to bike safely to the next location. And that kind of accessibility stuff. So this should come as no surprise because he's the former police chief of Detroit. But James Craig says he would focus on cracking down on law enforcement with a zero tolerance policy for traffic violations in order to make the roads more safe for walkers and bikers.
There must be consequences. And yes, I do support additional bike lanes, but we have to educate the public. We also have to educate those who are pedestrians. We have to educate bicyclists. But the truth of the matter is we have a lot of reckless driving. Not a weekend goes by and we think about hearing the horror stories on freeway systems because of excessive speeds and rollovers. I've not seen it to this degree anywhere else in other cities. And so it has to be a robust enforcement of all traffic laws. We can't have pedestrians that just blatantly walk across red traffic signals. We have to educate, but we have to enforce as well.
And during the forum, were there other interesting topics that were discussed?
Yeah, there was, another issue that's kind of mentioned under that reimagined plan, increasing funding for paratransit to get same-day services. Little things like, making the curbs at bus stops better so that it's safer to get onto vehicles. Another interesting thing I thought was eliminating parking minimums. Parking minimums are basically when a business has created kind of the requirement that parking access accompanies that. Now, eliminating parking minimums would kind of increase the need for transit because it would encourage people to take something other than their own car to a location. Candidates gave a variety of different answers on that one, from being all gung-ho about eliminating it to kind of looking at it on a case-by-case basis. But it's another way to, if you're investing in transit, to kind of push the city in a direction of having that infrastructure set up and getting people using it more, as opposed to driving your cars to places. So that was an interesting topic as well, I thought. And when it comes to regional transit, I think there's a general feeling with the candidates that, the mood is better than it's been in the region when it comes to transit. Is that enough to do anything actual with legislation? That's another issue, because we know how much of an uphill battle that has been for so long.
I mean, we were just talking a little bit, Alex, and like both of us love Chicago, love the fact that we can walk around Chicago as well as take the L.
But you'll get real jealous of that transit system real quick, coming from Detroit. Really quick.
So before I let you go, which candidate did the best at this forum in your opinion?
Well, it was, again, it's kind of a hard setup to really stand out in, because everyone is a minute and a half, and there's only so much you can say when people don't have exact policy numbers ready to go for how they'd handle it. I thought that Durhal did a pretty good job. He was the one who I think added new context the most when questions came up for him. Santil Jenkins didn't do too bad. But I think that if I had to pick one maybe stand out in that, I think that Durhal probably did a pretty solid job this time around.
Alex McLenon with WDET, thank you so much for your reporting and sharing your reporting with us on the Metro. We will have you back.
Absolutely, Tia.
From the WDET newsroom, endorsements are heating up in the race to be Detroit's next mayor. City Council President Mary Sheffield recently got the backing of several labor groups, including the Service Employees International Union. Over the weekend, Reverend Solomon Kinlock picked up the endorsement of the United Auto Workers at a rally at Solidarity House over the weekend. UAW President Shawn Fain says Kinlock is the right choice for the city. The top two vote getters in the August primary will move to November's general election. Coming up, federal funding for public media is under threat. A vote on clawing back funding for public media, including WDET, is happening right now. We'll talk about that more on the Metro up next. This is WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. You all stay right there. This is the Metro.